and it made it like no other ever. His vision was to build an Indianapolis down south for stock cars. So then when he got this property, it wasn't big enough to do that. So then his idea was, okay, I'll just build a track the same on each end, a true oval. So he started building down what is now turns 1 and 2, the old turns 3 and 4. Well, he started to do the same thing on this end, and Sherman Ramsey, who had given him the land at that card game, had been out of the country. He comes back into the country and says, Harold, what are you doing? Yeah. You've gone too far over on the property. Because where this building and stuff is right here, that used to be a minnow pond. So if you see there and all the way down back over there, can you see that?
Yeah, I can see the pond.
That's Ramsey's pond, okay? And so Mr. Ramsey had his minnow pond right over here, and he wanted to use his minnows to fish in his pond. Harold thought he was just going to throw dirt in it, cover it up, and he was going to make this end the same way it was on the other end as far as the circumference, everything else. And Ramsey said, you're not doing it. He had to cut this end shorter than he did on the other end, making the egg shape. This is the bottom of the egg. Now I can show you, we'll go in and I'll show you a little bit what is coming out of turn 2. When he built that turn, it sort of came to a point where he had to bring it this way. So he was off a little bit to make it just completely nice and flush. It came to here and he's like, oh goodness, I gotta stop and I gotta make it straight. So it comes to a stop, and then that's why you have so many people that have trouble coming out of what is turn 2 now, because he had to cut that corner shorter than he anticipated. A lot of it was eyeball construction. Now he had some blueprints, but again, it was the first time it had ever been done, you know, so it was a learning as you go type of thing. But his idea was, we're gonna get it done. And they did.
That's a great example how sometimes what you think are your problems or deficiencies can become your assets when packaged the right way.
That's right. In 1997 was the year that we moved the finish line from one side to the other. And the reason for that was, like you saw before, there's not a lot of property over there. It's all owned on the other side of the street by private landowners for the most part, except for one little strip. So the idea was we were able to finally buy some property back here. We built a causeway through the woods and it opens up into a big parking area. So now we can park our fans back there right off of what we call Petty Boulevard. So we were able then to build seats. Tyler Tower was built, 94? That's when we started building Tyler Tower. Pearson Tower, the first part of it was built in 97, the next part was built in 98. The Brazington Tower was built after I had left here. That was in the mid-2000s that the Brazington Tower was erected. We had to build a new Victory Lane whenever we moved everything.
Why don't we go over to where the original front stretch was, and you can show us where was the original Victory Lane, where were the garage areas, paint the picture of how it was.
This Victory Lane here, when we flip-flopped the finish line, this was the only piece of property that we had where we could build a Victory Lane. So you can see we used every bit of it. It's not a very large Victory Lane, but it works out nice. It's nice and compact. We got the flowers in there. We'll have some new backdrops, everything else.
Ricky Craven drove the wheels off it today. The crew is cheering him as they should be. What a run. Oh, here we go. Everybody gets wet.
Mobile One is now the sponsor of our Victory Lane. That's going to be upgraded here in the next couple days. But it's really a cool, compact Victory Lane, and it's right here beside Pit Road. But that was the real estate that we had to do that.
The whole flip-flop aspect of it is so fascinating to me, because you didn't get rid of what was over there when you switched it. You just put new stuff over here and left this the way it was. So in a way,
that's right.
This is like the throwback.
That's right.
It's just so cool that it lives.
So this, you sort of see where this old asphalt, you sort of see how it does right there?
Yeah.
So the original Victory Lane, it was where you ran up an incline and it stopped. So it was an incline and it stopped. It was right in here. And it stayed for many, many, many years. So, you know, back in the 50s, that's where first of all, when they first started, they didn't have really Victory Lane. They just did Victory out on the racetrack. But eventually when a victory lane came, this was an elevated thing where you would go up and park it, and that's where all the celebration was. Then you go back into, the 80s and the 90s. A victory lane, they tore down that, and then they built something right in here that had fencing around it. And basically you drove up, you didn't climb up anything, you just drove underneath a sign. So you had a perfect backdrop where the car would be right here and your sponsor sign would be right up above it. So that was built right here. And that was used until 1997, until it was time to flip-flop the start-finish lines. And here's another cool thing too. If you go back and look at old photos of this place, there used to be a tin roof that went all the way down this racetrack. It covered the entire Calvin grandstand. And you talking about loud, when those cars, they had those big engines in them, they were very, very loud. They would come out of turn 4 and they would come through here, and it was so super loud. I mean, I can remember being there. You had to have the headphones on to try to help with the sound, to protect your ears. We had that until 1989. Hurricane Hugo came and hit the East Coast. And while we were not right there, because it was really down in Myrtle Beach where it really hit, here it messed up the foundation. There was so much wind that it messed up the foundations of that roof. And so we had to tear it down. Also, while you see Brazington is over on the outside of turn 1 now, forever it was right outside of turn number 2. And it was an old wooden stand. You see that's concrete barriers up there, concrete seating. But the Brazington stand was different in the fact that it was made of wood and steel, but you could see underneath you, because it was split with wood and stuff. But it had a roof on it too. And then eventually whenever we moved everything over there, it was time to tear it down, and we built Brazington over on the other side.
What was that little building right there for?
That's always been a suite. But years and years ago, it was called the President's Suite. So the president of the racetrack could invite all kinds of guests. You'd have political people, you'd have sponsor people, you'd have just guests of the racetrack. But that was called the President's Suite. It's called the Champions Club today, where we have a lot of folks just buy tickets to come in there.
Is that like the old fuel building?
That's the old Goodyear building.
Okay.
That's the old Goodyear building, right? You had Unical building, you had Goodyear building.
That was Unical, that was Goodyear?
That's it. They were both right here together. Yep.
The square bricks, were those original structures too?
Yes.
So that's the original infield care center also?
That's it. That's exactly right.
So they called for the doctor to come down. They have brought him to the care center. Now we understand they have sent for an ambulance, but right now Dale Earnhardt is in the infield care center being checked out.
That was the original, and then eventually built another care center down here, and then it was torn down, and now there's a new care center there too. But so right here, and we'll go out there.
Yeah, let's go out there and look at that. I want to see the old holes for the timing equipment and everything.
See, this used to be the Cup garage. Now this is used by the Xfinity Series.
It might sound like a broken record, but I think it's so awesome that none of those original structures were taken down. They just stayed there.
Well, that's the great thing about concrete concrete blocks. Of course, they've all been different things that have been done over the years to upgrade them to make sure that they're good facilities.
It's hard to reinvent a roof. That's about all that garage is.
Yeah.
There's no need to change it. Now, what are these backstretch pits used for now?
They're not.
They're just there?
Yeah, they're not. See, let me just show you something right quick. Look straight down. Remember what I told you a while ago about how the turn ends before it should have?
Yeah.
Look, just look. Look and see what I'm talking about, how it comes to that point. See how, and then all of a sudden, then it has to do a quick round.
Yeah. Right
In
there.
reality, the turn should have come out a lot further. So you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's why you have a lot of folks that will hit this wall here coming out of what is turn 2 now.
Does it do something weird down here too? It
Just
almost
a
looks
little
like
bit.
it kicks out.
It kicks out a little bit. Thus again, there wasn't a big amount of quote engineering in it. It was Harold who wanted to build a racetrack, and he did it. And so the character of this place started with the very first Southern 500 in 1950. And the great thing is, it's been going for 74 years. Every track president, they've always wanted to keep that character intact, and that's what we've been able to do.
Have the concrete walls been redone since the first time they were made to be concrete?
Well, you got to think now. When they first built this place, there was not concrete. There was not concrete walls. It was guardrails. Believe it or not, my grandfather, W.D. Branham, actually supplied the wood. He had an old sawmill, so all the wood that made the first guardrails here came from Branham Lumber Company, about a mile outside of what is turn 1.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's been different things over the years, but the concrete's been here for a long time. I can't remember if it's been replaced since it was originally put in there. I would say yeah, because originally when they put it up there, they didn't have enough reinforcement. They did, now I remember. They completely redid them because they put reinforcement in it. So that was before you had soft walls, but you had to have concrete walls that were going to, if a car hit it the right way, you didn't want it to break apart. So whenever they did redo it, they put reinforcement in it, a lot more reinforcement than what was in there prior to.
Where did Kelly Yarborough drive out of the track?
Down there, what is now turns 3 and 4, about the middle where that Darlington sign is. That's where he and Sam McQuagg got together, and that's where he went over the wall right there into a telephone pole.
You should put a plaque there.
Yeah, I know.
Kale's Corner.
That's it, man.
Been here at the track for a little over a year altogether, and this is my 12th season working in NASCAR for our racetracks.
Did you aspire to have a career like this when you were younger?
You know, I grew up going to races at Talladega as a kid, and never really thought about working in the sport. I loved sports in general growing up, and it was, I got my start working in college athletics, and then I did some tennis and golf events, and then just back in 2012, found the opportunity at Talladega, which aligned with some of my professional experience at the time, and thought it would be a really cool opportunity to go back and work at a facility where I used to go as a fan.
Can we go up into the turn and show how narrow the racing surface actually is?
Yeah, so here, we'll come up close. We'll take a walk up.
Would the golf cart tip over if you tried to go up there?
No, it won't tip over, but we'll certainly have to make a lean to the left or the right.
Have you tried to go up there?
We'll get up here a little bit just to give you a little bit of the sensation. It progressively gets steeper the further up we go. It's 25 degrees at the top here. So I'm gonna stop. We'll go right here up to the Darlington logo. And it's always cool to walk up the banking because you really get that sensation of how steep it is. And the further we get up here to the top, the steeper the banking, and that's why they like to run as close to this wall as they can, which affectionately leads to all the Darlington stripes, which you can see there's a little bit still here on the walls. That'll get painted up fresh before the race coming up next weekend. And then every night after each race, we'll get out here, our track crew team, and they'll repaint the walls fresh before we kick off the next day's race.
How close to the events itself do you repaint all this stuff?
So all the solid red and white that you see, our track guys get out here. They started about 2 weeks ago, painting all of that. Then we have some different guys that do painting on the track. So Jimmy Jolly over here, painting the Goodyear, has been doing the track surface painting for a long time here at the track. And then we've got a group that comes in and paints all the logoed sections as well. So they're here right now going around and getting that touched up before next weekend.
That's a neat process. Do they have stencils and then they'd hand fill it in? Or?
So a lot of the track stuff, Jimmy will freehand draw using a little bit of stencil help, but he usually just takes the image, scales it, and then does some chalk drawing first, and then they go back and fill it in. So as we go back around the front stretch, you'll see more of the logos that are all there. The unique thing is, obviously the track surface is going to be painted, but all the walls have to be painted because of how close they run. We can't put decals on the walls because as soon as the car hits a decal, it's going to rip it right off. So all these have to be hand painted. The only decals you'll see are actually on some of the inside portion of the walls where the contact is very unlikely, especially during competition.
That is interesting. I never thought about that before.
So this is our safer barrier. You can see one of the safety enhancements that was developed a number of years ago. These soft walls are built to compress when the cars hit them so that it takes some of the load and some of the energy out of the crash, as opposed to the old concrete walls that were before the safer barrier.
It gives a good demonstration of how much banking there is because the top of the wall is shaved off to be level to the earth, and it looks like it's a sharp, it's a real sharp corner.
It's a very sharp corner.
Is there anything that's heavy on your radar of things you want to do or improve upon?
Well, you know, it's always a balance here of improvement, but not changing the character of this facility. You know, our campgrounds are very popular in the infield, so I'd love to, you know, down the road, let's see if we can expand on that in any way. I would love to have a full suite tower above the front stretch at some point. We've looked at how do we make maybe an RV overlook over the back stretch down the road. So there's a lot of ideas we've got, you know, nothing imminent right now in terms of definite plans, but those are some of the things. We just completed a renovation of the Pearson Tower over here. So all the seats that you see were put in last year before our first race. So we've got all chairback seating with cup holders and armrests in the Pearson Tower, as well as the Tyler Tower and the Brazington Tower down on the end. And then the Wallace section below on the front stretch are all metal chairback, you know, bench back seating. So that's one of our most recent enhancements that we've made here at the track.
Interesting.
The other cool thing that you can see from here is the light system. So Musco is our lighting partner, and you've got the lights all around the exterior of the track. But then the other component of that for all of our NASCAR tracks are the inside lights. So all of these little banks you see all along are shining light back onto the track surface, but it's structured so that it doesn't shine it in the driver's eyes. So it really helps brighten up and light the track up for night racing, which we'll have for the truck series. And then when we're back in September for the Southern 500, it'll be starting in the daytime and finish at night.
Can you see where the flag stand used to be?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, you can't really see that now, but I mean, I can tell you where it was.
Yeah, so there's the door and stuff looks like it's still there.
So you see, you can see right now, you can see where it was. It was right here. It was center of that center building up there, okay? So what used to be over here, go back in time before that was built. You gotta remember when they first built this racetrack, there was no inside wall. We talked about Billy Myers back in the 50s. There was no wall that separated the racing surface from the pits. That, as a result of that, eventually they would build a pit wall that would separate it. So on the other side of the pit wall, on the other side of the pits, they had what they called, they had a control tower that was down in here, so that there was nothing up there yet. There used to be a square building that was on the other side of the wall over here, and that is where all the equipment was and stuff that was measuring this, that, and the other, score and everything, where they threw the caution and everything else. That's where they were housed. That's where the NASCAR officials were. Again, it was just a square building and it was elevated. So that's where they call the race from, right over there. Eventually, You would have, again, the tin roof up here. That would go away. This would be built. And so you had 3 boxes up there. You had NASCAR control. You had the MRN. And then you had the PA booth. So that's what was that was up there. But excuse me, the PA booth and MRN shared a booth. So it was eventually it'd be NASCAR control, television broadcast, MRN, and PA shared a booth. But that's where they called it. That was called the Eye in the Sky.
Do you know about what year that went up?
That had to been, that was early 80s, because they actually had a little smaller Eye in the Sky before that. It was just a little tiny buildings that were sitting up on top of there, and they eventually took those down and built these. So this was a big upgrade from what they used to have there. So you first of all didn't have anything that was first built. Then you had the square building over here. It was taken down. The roof was up there. They put small little buildings up there, and those became the Eye in the Sky. And eventually those were knocked down, and then that was built. That was the control tower until we flip-flopped it in 1997, and then that became your new control tower. Well,
this will be the TV booth in here. You have radio right over there, and then we'll walk around to the next door, race control. So they'll bring in all their equipment, make sure the backdrops, the lighting, all the monitors for the radio, TV guys, so they can see the action going on.
Is there a panel with the buttons to control the lights and all that stuff in here?
There's your caution light.
That's it? Just one little button?
One little light.
Huh. Is this where the timing equipment was for the start-finish line?
yes.
Cool.
Let's see.
Yep. That is so dang cool. Looks like this is where they cut the flag stand out of the wall. I know there's gonna be people be like, why do you care about some holes in the wall? It's boring, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. Yes, it does. This is cool. This to me means that this flag stand was right here. These were the poles. It was right there. And that is as close as I can get to seeing what it used to look like. Was the timing equipment back then just like a reflective something, or how exactly, what did they have in those holes?
I can't answer that question. I don't know. That's way above my head. I do know that the scoring tower here used to be an old building down here, and it was actually replaced, but I can show you where the old scoring tower was. And back then, that was before you had computers and everything, so you had a score per race team, race driver, and they would manually write it down every time that driver would come by here.
Just like sponsors play a critical role in helping get race cars to the racetrack, they also help us bring these videos to you. And we must really be an official YouTube channel now, because today's video sponsor is Raid Shadow Legends. Can you believe it? I know myself or Logan, if we're on a long flight, we'll play phone games. Phone games are a great way to pass the time, especially if you're on an airplane and you don't want to pay for Wi-Fi. I hate how they do that. Raid Shadow Legends would be a great option for you. It has a really dense storyline. The graphics are fantastic. I can't believe that this stuff comes from a phone, because I remember what graphics used to be like in the video games that I played when I was a kid, and they were not up to this standard, that's for sure. They're having a special spring hunt minigame event starting from April 15th to May 30th. You can find hidden items around the game. Once completed, you can win real-life prizes like a gaming console or Amazon gift card with a total value of $10,000. All you gotta do is download Raid using this link or the QR code on the screen. If you haven't started playing yet, then what are you waiting for? Click my link in the description or scan my QR code to get insane bonuses that are only available with that link.
The 1962 Southern 500, they flagged Junior Johnson as the winner. That night, they realized they made a mistake, and Larry Frank was deemed the winner, and so he came out the next day to get his trophy, and that was pretty much it. He got the cash, and he got a pat on the back, but he missed all the victory lane ceremonies. He didn't get the kisses with the queens, everything else. So fast forward to 1992, 30 years later, we actually brought Larry Frank back. let him get on a pace car, went out and made a lap, and he came and he stopped right here at the start-finish line. And there we had beauty queens and a trophy and everything for him, where it was sort of a reenactment of what he missed out on 30 years earlier. Pretty cool. But again, those kinds of mistakes, happen in the early days of NASCAR, because it's hard, you think about it, to try to score a race and have everybody on the same page with 40-something cars in it.
They were all spread out back then too. It wasn't
That's right.
It looks like there's actually the poles from the flag stand are still in there. You can see where they just cut it off. And some box filled
from
in.
what I got, the last time this place was paved was 07.
Okay. What do they do in the old Unocal and the old Goodyear buildings now?
Yeah, we have our fire safety team use it. So it's different departments now that utilize the buildings. Some might be some storage that we use throughout the year, and then we open it up for different things at race time.
When was the original Earnhardt Tower built?
That was mid-60s, and it was the small one right there. Late 60s.
So the small one's the one that was blue that had the extra thing on top?
That's right. That's right. It's a great spot to watch a race. I'm going to tell you right now, the press box used to be the second floor of this one whenever I was here in the 90s. And you talking about a great seat to see those cars screaming coming straight at you. It was unbelievable. The media loved it here. Now they're actually in the top. They're up top in that small one now. What you asked when Cale went over the wall, it was right in here. He and Sam McQuagg got together coming through here in 65. And that's where it happened, that right there.
These guys moved quick. None of those Goodyears were up there when we were just looking at that with Josh a couple hours ago.
That's right.
The main concrete part of those grandstands back there, was that there when it was the backstretch?
That was the old Wallace grandstand. That's still the Wallace grandstand, yes. Built Tyler Tower up above it. Because I remember coming here in the 70s as a kid, up on top of the Wallace grandstand, they had what you call box seats. And the box seats, they were little small seats that may have had like 20 per, and it had roofs on it. And it went from one end to the other. But eventually those were torn down too. A lot of that because of Hurricane Hugo. It messed up the foundations of a lot of stuff. I told you earlier about just meeting so many people and getting to know people. Bud Moore, the longtime car owner from Spartanburg, he had 2 cars that ran in the first Southern 500. And I tell you, Johnny Mance basically got truck tires, and he outsmarted them all, and he actually won that race by going slow. Well, everyone was popping tires, and so what they were doing, the infield was packed full of cars, and people came out in their Sunday best with their white shirts and their hats and everything else. They ran out of tires, so the team owners went in the infield and started buying up tires off of people's personal cars. So they would give them money, they would put concrete blocks underneath, and the next day it looked like a graveyard of cars, of street cars, because they had gone and race teams needed, they needed tires.
That's funny.
This media center was built in the late 90s. It's named after Jim Hunter. Jim Hunter was the president here. Jim Hunter really revitalized this racetrack back in the mid-90s, whenever he came here in 1993. When he got here, that's the reason we started getting these new grandstands. We started really promoting the heck out of it and offering up some cool stuff to people. And that's when, while he was here under his regime, Tyler Tower was built, Pearson Tower was built.
How old are those little suites out there?
I'll show you one I know that's old. Those were built back in the early 2000s. But the one that's over there, that was rebuilt. That was rebuilt as a, that used to be where the old scoring stand was. So that's where you had all the people who had the, you know, every car had to have a score. And that's where it was built. Now eventually that original building is gone. Just like the first press box here was an open air press box. It was built out of wood. Had a race car go out the place one year and actually went into the press box and tore part of it down. Unfortunately, there was no press on that very end where he went over.
Huh.
But you can see you had a good angle right here to be able to look at the cars whenever they went by.
Yeah. That observation deck looked like it's been there for a long time.
It has been. That's our operations department right there. One thing that, you know, this vintage racetrack has, it has a lot of character in it. You know, it used to be the tunnel that we're going through. There wasn't a tunnel here to get RVs and stuff in. It used to be a crossover gate right there. So this road right over here just would go straight up, and there was a crossover gate.
That one?
That's it. Yeah. So if you wanted to get here, you either had to get here early in the morning before cars got here, or you had to get here late in the evening.
When did the tunnels get dug out?
That's probably that tunnel there. Now the tunnels we went through a while ago have been here for many years. But that big tunnel there for an RV, that tunnel was built probably 17, 18 years ago.
Where was the hauler parking and all that before the flip around?
We'd always pull them in the garage.
The haulers pulled straight into the garage?
Oh yeah, we'd fill up the garage there.
They just park right behind it?
That's right. You park inside the garage. I mean, it used to be, I can remember in the 90s, you know, basically drivers or teams could rent the track, and they would come in, they would bring 15 of them, and they'd split the track rental fee. That'd be 2 or 3 weeks before the race, we'd have 15 to 20 cars here testing. But they would all be in here. They would all be pulled into the grass at an angle, right here.
Yeah, I can see how they fit now.
Yeah.
You just have the back of the trailer on the pavement.
There we did the flip-flop. You know, it was good because we got a new, you know, had a new gas station, and so there were some things that were brand new that were really cool, you know.
Yeah, that is.
And you can
pretty
see
awesome.
this is a much bigger garage than the other one, so there's a lot more room in here. All the trucks go up against over there.
That is really cool that it's kind of the same thing, just a little bit bigger. And
just a little bit bigger. It's the same type thing.
And by moving it, you didn't have to tear the old stuff down. Normally, if a track gets updated, you have to tear stuff down to put better things in the same spot.
That's right. Those are restrooms in there, one little open room.
Do they set up like a tent for inspections and stuff?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that'll be done. Some of the stuff's already being done right now. You can see down here. So there's a lot of stuff being done already. The next few days, I mean, you come back here next Tuesday, Wednesday, it'll look completely different.
I love the hand-painted character of the signs. That really, I guess because you're kind of forced to with the walls here, but it helps with the vibe of the heritage of this place also.
Absolutely, it's an art. Truly is an art to get those logos painted and all the intricacies, but you still see the hand nature of getting them done by hand. So one of the cool aspects of Throwback Weekend is we usually use a Throwback NASCAR Series logo. So we'll have the NASCAR International logo on the track for Throwback Weekend, which is really cool.
And they make all those chalk dots just freehand?
Yeah, so he goes through and makes the dots, plots it out, and then comes back and paints it.
That's incredible.
So right up here, you can see they've started to color in a section for the track surface, and then we've got our Darlington Too Tough to Tame logo on the other side. Right here at the start-finish line, So a lot of people ask, how do they get the timing and scoring so precise? So if you see these little marks here in the asphalt, those are the timing lines. So they get hooked up to some equipment here on pit road, and all the cars have a transponder in them. So at the same exact position. So when they're set so that when the front of the car crosses the start finish line, that transponder is going through these marks right here. So it's an accurate description of where they are in relation to each other and the exact time. Obviously, there's supplements with high-speed cameras here at the start-finish line as well, but you'll see these lines throughout the track all around where that's the timing and scoring that NASCAR uses to make sure when there's a caution or at the end of the race, they've got everyone in the right position.
Do these playoff things get painted over or blasted off?
Yep, so playoffs will get painted over since that was from last fall. So that'll get painted over, be solid black here. We'll freshen up the Darlington Too Tough to Tame, freshen up the start-finish line, the checkered pattern there, so that when fans come down for the pre-race experience, they can sign the start-finish line all fresh and new and leave their mark here on the track Too Tough to Tame.
You ever have to scrape the paint off because it builds up so much?
No, it's a special type of paint for the asphalt, so it doesn't get to the point to where it builds up layers and layers, which is obviously important to maintaining the integrity of the track surface.
Does it just kind of wear off over time?
It does, just kind of wears through the weekend, and if it ever got to the point, they would certainly come in and grind it a little bit if needed.
What are you doing during a race?
So it'll be a number of things. So we'll get the race started. I'll probably go visit some of our guests in the Darlington room in our suite, our track hosted suite. We'll have a number of guests and dignitaries here for the weekend. We'll go visit our partners, get out and try to walk all the concourses during the race just to see things for myself, concessions, restrooms, make sure, always taking notes, trying to make sure that there's things that we need to improve on for future races. We're seeing that kind of in real time. I like to just kind of walk and take notes, talk to fans when they're on the concourse, see how their experience is going. We'll probably spend a little bit of time in race control with our NASCAR team just to make sure everything's going good from a race perspective. And then it's just kind of being around, checking everything out. And then as we get close into the race, we'll come down to Victory Lane and hand out that Goodyear 400 trophy at the end of the race.
If you're enjoying this video, make sure you go watch the one we did at Rockingham a few years ago. That one will really give you an unaltered look at what some of the race control and those types of things looked like in the 90s, because when we filmed that, Rockingham was just coming out of abandonment. It was a total time capsule, and you guys would love that video. Now when you go watch that video, go leave a comment on it saying you came from this video and test me to see if I answer you. I bet you can't stump me.
We actually had Cale Yarber's family come out here the other week. They just wanted to come out here and just see all the signage and all the signs that we got of Cale in just different places. We look at our heroes, we look at, Dale, we look at Harry. These were my guys, back in my day whenever I was, a late teenager, and a lot of respect for so many of these people here, man, just unbelievable. We'll go back in here, you'll see the Cale Yarbers of the world, the David Pearsons, the Ned Jarretts. The great thing is they still live here, not only those in the museum that are in the Hall of Fame, but sometimes I like just coming in here and just looking, because you see how it was, and again, history still lives through this place. Talked about Larry Frank earlier, 1962, Ned Jarrett, Darrell Derringer, these are...
Is that the building you said is not the original scoring?
That's it.
It's not there anymore?
That's it. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It was, like I said, it was built in the 50s.
Is that, it's got the little restroom things up on top of the...
That's it.
Grandstands.
That's exactly.
Are those the same structures?
No, they were redone.
They're in the same place?
Same places, yeah. You can see those are very, very close together. We don't have, now they're spaced out a little bit more, and they're much bigger.
Places like this with all the original buildings and stuff that you can identify, it really helps tie this together, because if you look at pictures like this, and it's hard to really believe or understand that, like, we're in the same place as this. It just, it looks like a different world.
I mean, you know, these old tunnels were built, you know, in the 60s. I mean, this is just unbelievable. In the 50s and the 60s. One was built in the 50s, one was built in the 60s. Think about the people who came through these tunnels. You know, all these dudes here, they came through these tunnels that we're standing in. It's pretty cool, pretty cool. Joe Weatherly, the clown prince of racing. Fearless Freddie Lorenzen, he was the golden boy. You know, he had the look. He was a heck of a race car driver, had a lot of success with Hallman Moody. You know, a lot of people don't realize that Junior Johnson, not only a great car owner and won many championships and races, but he won a lot of races as a race car driver too, including the Daytona 500 and the Southern 500. But
I like how you can pull in here and you can see that it used to be a place you walk up and buy tickets. Like it just has it's all still that
that's
way.
the thing. It's pretty much like it was. You can just see how it was just added on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So which one of these was the first one? Because it went that way and that way, but where's the nucleus?
The first one was here. It actually started here as far as administrative office was here, and then ticket office was here. This was the door to come into where you could come see the president, and then over here was your ticket office.
Oh, okay. And then it got more popular, and they built the one over there where people could walk right up and buy tickets.
That's right, because then they needed places for accountants and stuff. So all right, we're gonna start putting people here, and we're gonna go over this way. And so that's what they did. So we just kept going flush right. It's been turned into small offices and that kind of thing now. But you can see then
the paneling's still there.
Right here. Yeah, right here. Right here was where the end of it was. And so then the next thing you know, they added on a little bit more. And then the next thing you know, they added on something else. So over the years, it was a process of just keeping adding to it. So this is now the main ticket office. But during the first races here, they counted all the money for the admissions. They put all the money in peach baskets. Clarice Lane, who worked here for 50 plus years, who we lost several years ago, she worked that first Southern 500 and then wound up working here for 50 plus years, had great stories about how they had no other way to do it. They were so overwhelmed with 25,000+ people here that they didn't really know how to handle it. And so they literally had peach baskets. Peaches are grown a lot around in this area, and that's where they put the money. They didn't have where else to put the money. It's just crazy.
Were those the windows that people would walk up to and slide their money in? Because it looked like outside there were so often there were poles in the ground.
Back in the day, that's exactly what that was, back in the day. But you're right, you can see the old paneling walls that were here way back when. They were brown, you know, it was all paneling. Clarice, who I told you about, who was here forever, this was her office. This was her little pad here. I wish I had a picture of her somewhere that I could let you see, but again, it's all character. It's all character.
Even these windows, like these look like the windows that were in my elementary school.
Hey, but they still work.
Yeah.
So you don't need to change them. So again, that has the entire flair of what this place is all about.
Does the track own that building out there too?
We do.
What did that start as?
That, believe it or not, that was a fast food restaurant called Wiener King. And so it didn't make it, and then eventually the track was able to buy that piece of property, and it turned into, actually when I first started here in 1989, my office was over there across the street. That's where the public relations office was, and also the general manager's office. So that's where I was housed for what, 3.5 years? 3.5 years. But now that is used as a credential building. So race weekend, that's used when people are coming to get their credentials. That's where they go to get them. That's where NASCAR credentials are and the track credentials is located. And that piece of property all the way back, eventually the track was able to buy that. And so that's now for camping back over there on the backside. So, but reality, that's it. It's owned across the street. That point, from that point all the way down, and from that point over there all the way down, that's all privately owned property.
Not much parking there.
Hey, you gotta make do. And the great thing is it's been done for almost 75 years, 74 and counting.
What was bolted to the ground here? There's these anchors every so often.
I don't know.
So these were the old, looks like old ticket windows. There's even some pole right there.
Yeah.
Maybe they were railings for to divide the lines or something. Like the
It may have been.
metal stanchions. I don't know.
I don't know. And I'll be honest, I've never asked that question. But that's a good question. I'll probably need to ask that now.
That's what I'm here for, to ask the
There you
tough
go.
questions.
I love it. I love it.
I always look for holes in the ground, holes in the wall. I want to see where things were hung or fastened to.
Yeah, but
Was that a motel over there?
no.
What is
That
that?
used to be like a little flea market type thing many years ago. But as you can see all the way down there, you've got private homes that are down there across the street. Same thing down here across the street. And then you go down this road here, Smith Avenue, you got all kinds of homes and stuff back over in there too.
What about that little place on the corner?
That place has been so many different businesses over the years. It's been a barbecue joint, it's been a hair cuttery, it's been different things. As you can see now, it's for sale again. And this is something I think is pretty cool too. This is just sort of an old school sign. It does have some digital on it.
All the retaining wall and the steps and the foundation all look like they're the same brick as the buildings.
Correct. That's what it is. That's what it's supposed to look like. And you got all your different winners here of every race that's ever been here. It starts on the other side and it comes right here. The more artwork, Josh and I have talked about this, the more artwork and stuff we can get around here that showcases our history. That's the great thing about it. When you start talking about, well, what can we do here? What can we do there? We've got so much artwork and so much history here of former drivers and this kind of thing. We got a lot to choose from, to make things look cool here. When you look at tracks like Darlington, you look at tracks like Martinsville, that's been around forever, North Wilkesboro is now back. It really keeps the whole tradition of our sport alive because this really is the grassroots of racing. Again, this is the first super speedway that was ever constructed. The next super speedway that became a reality was Daytona in 1959. What did Darlington do to help propel the sport? I think it did a lot because, first of all, it put Darlington on the map from a city and county standpoint, but also it gave race fans something else to look at other than just short track racing.
For people who would want to come here and see the museum, is it open year round?
It's open year round. Right now we're open during the week from 10 to 4. I think it was worth your trip just to come down here.
Definitely.
Just to be able to go in there and see what's in there. Again, I'd put this museum against anybody, any other museum, just because of the fact of the cool stuff that's in there that's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
This place is awesome. I appreciate you taking the time to
No,
show
I
us
appreciate
around.
you being here. And again, there's a lot of people that, I left this place and left this area for 25 years. When I'm back, a lot of people say, why'd you want to come back? Well, it's home. Not only is it home, but this is home.
We were both really surprised at how much physical history is left at the whole Darlington facility. It's a really special place. I'm so glad we were able to do this video, and I wish we would have done it sooner, honestly. I got a whole new perspective of everything there, and I can't wait to go back. But just want to remind you all of something. YouTube cannot read your mind. If you like this video, you gotta tell it so it can show you more of them. We get messages and comments sometimes, people saying, oh, when are you gonna post another video? I haven't seen anything in months. I'm like, man, we're posting stuff all the time. It's just not showing it to you for some reason. It thinks you don't like us anymore. So please, if you're not already, check and make sure you're subscribed. That's the first step. You can click the little bell. But most importantly, because I don't think the subscribe function even really does what it's supposed to anymore, hit the thumbs up. That tells YouTube that you like the video, and it will show you next time we post something. At least it should. the more you interact with it, the more likely you are to see another one. And I think you want to see another one because you watched this one and you must have liked it, or you would have left a long time ago. And I'm interested to know what you guys thought. Did you learn anything that was particularly interesting to you, or that you didn't know, or maybe a misconception that you had that was cleared up? I'd love to know what's going on inside your head, so leave a comment. Try to read almost all of them and answer as many as I can. And if you want to see some behind the scenes stuff, like doing the wrap on my race car here, go to Stapleton 42 Extra channel to find that, and some bonus stories and that kind of thing. We're posting there more often. Help the channel out and check out Raid Shadow Legends, or download the game in the link in the description.